What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is the 2014 film Tusk. This film was first requested to me by Amazing Plays on my A Clockwork Orange review video. This is actually a friend of mine who's been asking me to review Tusk for like weeks on end now, and finally I was like, okay, I'll review Tusk. But I need you to comment it on my YouTube channel because I can't give you special treatment, so here we are. Just a reminder to everyone though to keep sending me your requests for films you want to see me review. Just leave them in the comments section of pretty much any one of my videos and I'll see it. I'm trying to get to all of them as fast as possible, and obviously it's worth your while too because I'll give your channel a shout out in that review video you requested. But anyway, let's get into my review of Tusk. So Tusk is a 2014 horror comedy film written and directed by Kevin Smith, who many of you probably know from his work as Silent Bob from the Jay and Silent Bob films. He's also involved in a ton of other things such as Comic Book Man and Clerks, but most importantly his podcast called Smodcast. I say this podcast is most important because this film Tusk is based off episode 259 of Smodcast entitled The Walrus and the Carpenter. During this episode, Smith and his friend Scott Moiser discuss a British online classified ad where a man was offering free rent to whoever would agree to dress up as a walrus around the house. Supposedly the ad was a prank, but nonetheless, Kevin Smith decided that he needed to make a film based on this quote-unquote true story. Kevin Smith was definitely mocking films that say based on a true story, then changed pretty much all the key details because that's what he definitely did here with Tusk. Tusk primarily follows Justin Long's character, Wallace, a co-host of a popular fictional podcast entitled The Not See Party located out in LA. But it's spelled Notsee instead of Nazi party like the Germans, so it's a play on words, get it? This podcast is comedy driven and reacts to weird viral videos mostly while providing raunchy humor and commentary and even mockery of those who appear in said videos. Well, Wallace eventually heads to Canada to interview a young boy who is the newest internet celebrity because of a recent viral video that was released containing an accident that injures him pretty severely. Once Wallace arrives in Canada, the interview with the teenage boy falls through, so he's looking for someone else with interesting stories that he can interview for his podcast. He doesn't want his trip to Canada to be for nothing, so he eventually heads to a man named Howard Howe's house after he sees a handbill on a bathroom wall stating that he's offering free rent to someone who wants to hear a lifetime of interesting stories. Wallace feels like he's stumbled upon a gold mine, so eventually he arrives at Howard Howe's house, and after a discussion and a scene that feels like it goes on forever, Wallace passes out from drinking the tea and now he's a prisoner of Mr. Howe's. The rest of the film follows Wallace trying to escape from Howard Howe's house and Howard Howe trying to turn Wallace into a walrus. Okay, so I gotta say, this is one of the strangest movies I've ever seen in my entire life. There's just some shit in this movie that's completely off the wall crazy and it made me sick to my stomach. There's a lot of imagery that if you're not really into intense horror and can't really handle some of this stuff, then you're not gonna feel so great after watching this movie. I'm somewhere in between. I'm not really a huge horror or gore movie lover, but I'll watch it every now and then if I don't have any other options. But with this movie, I started it last night and finished it this morning, and I was kind of hungry this morning and I thought to myself, a bowl of Frosted Flakes sounds pretty good right now. I picked up some at the grocery store because I was like, I haven't had cereal in a while. Why the hell not? Well, of course, I start eating them right during the climax of the film and the most grotesque part of the movie, and possibly the grossest thing I've ever seen in a horror movie. I was like, I can't even finish my cereal, this is disgusting. And I guess that's what this movie was going for, just to be over the top gory and disgusting in a way that's gonna make you feel really uncomfortable. Because the idea for this film was super flimsy as is, and they had to do something to liven up the story and at least make it entertaining. And the best way to do that, I guess, is to add a ton of gore and other ingredients into the pot as well. There's comedic elements to this film, there's thriller elements to this film, and there's horror elements to this film. And for the most part, these elements do okay on their own, but some of them get in the way of the others at various points. Like there's some scenes where the tension is building and our supporting actors are just trying to solve this case, and then they just throw all this humor in there and it feels sort of out of place and forced. It's Kevin Smith, so he probably felt like he had to throw a decent amount of comedy into this film because that's primarily what he's known for. Sometimes it worked, but usually it didn't work. At some points I thought to myself, like, is this film supposed to be mocking horror films or something? I wasn't sure whether or not to take it seriously, and as a viewer it resulted in mostly a dissatisfied experience because I'm getting a ton of different ingredients thrown at me all at once, and it sort of blurs the film's identity. The film is officially listed as a drama horror film on IMDb, and it's definitely that, but it's not always that. So if you're a horror junkie and you just love horror, this film will likely only half please you at best. The plot is decent enough to move the story along, and it's actually pretty much standard as far as horror movies go, with obviously a little bit more ridiculousness than usual. I can't deny though that the plot is pretty flimsy, but I mean, a lot of horror movies have flimsy plots. But the best part of this film by far was the acting. Justin Long as Wallace was actually really good in this movie, and it shows that he's used to doing horror films because he seemed pretty comfortable doing it here. He's really kind of an asshole, and the film does a good job of making you hate him for the beginning of the film, then feel bad for him later on because this guy's trying to turn him into a walrus. He sells the pain and agony really well though, and it makes it really believable. It was also great to see Haley Joel Osment again, who you might know from his work as a kid on The Sixth Sense. He plays Wallace's podcast partner Teddy in this film, and he does a really good job actually. He shows that he can definitely still act, and I really hope he gets more roles because he's really a good actor. I've never seen Genesis Rodriguez in anything before, but she plays Wallace's girlfriend Allie, and she does a fantastic job here as well. She has tons of crying scenes, and I hope to see her in more as well because she's actually really good and brings some much needed drama and seriousness to this movie. Michael Parks plays our main antagonist Howard Howe, and he is ridiculously good in this role. He's extremely eloquent and well spoken, and at the same time really dark and twisted. He's in a ton of scenes obviously, and he mostly carries the film because he really is so entertaining to watch. Sickening, but it's like a train wreck because you really just can't take your eyes off the screen when he's on it. And finally, Johnny Depp actually appears in this film too as Guy Lapointe, a detective that helps Teddy and Allie search for Wallace. His character is mostly comedy relief in this film, and he actually does an amazing job at it. I was looking at his character and I was like, who the hell is that actor because I know him? At first I thought it was Josh Radnor, who was Ted Mosby on How I Met Your Mother, but I checked IMDb and it said Johnny Depp and I was like, oh shit. But yeah, he has a few serious moments in there, but he's mostly there for comedy purposes. This just shows though that Johnny Depp excels in pretty much any odd role, comedy or drama. Overall though, I think this film has good acting and a decent mix of cinematic ingredients. Sadly, the film also lacks a real identity. Its horror is just over the top and ridiculous. Its plot is pretty flimsy, and the climax and ending of the story will likely leave you dissatisfied. I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10 and say that you should probably not watch this unless you're a real horror junkie who loves just over the top ridiculousness. So did you guys see Tusk yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether Tusk is your kind of film or not. Also, don't forget to send me your review requests because I've really enjoyed what you guys have sent my way thus far. And as always, if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for future content like this. Thanks again to Amazing Plays, aka Spence Nice, for requesting this movie to me, and I will see you guys in the next review. This is Willfoxification signing off.